First, we're going to have the invocation by Commissioner Thomas, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time we can come here together to do the county's business. We just pray that you will just give peace and mercy to those in our county who are struggling and those who have lost loved ones. We just ask the peace that only that you can bring to just come over those families. We just ask you to be with us today and just guide us in everything that we do, and may we execute your will and not our own. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Let me take a look, Bruce.
Yes, I have an add-on item under general business, please.
I would like to pull item number 7 on consent.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
All right, can we get a motion on the agenda?
Move to approve as modified. Second.
Got a motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. First presentation of the day is Coalition Against Bigger Trucks.
He's not here, I don't think.
Not here, okay? Moving right along. We Care Network presentation next.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for letting us speak to you today. I'm Sue Conti. I'm the Executive Director of Capital Medical Society and the Capital Medical Society Foundation. We operate the We Care program that many of you are very familiar with. And I believe in your packets there's a little bit of data about what we do, but just really briefly, the Capital Medical Society is the membership organization for physicians in the 4-county area, Leon, Gadsden, Wakulla, and Jefferson counties. We have about 675 doctors that are members, and in 1992 they formed a program under their charitable organization, the foundation, called the We Care Network. The We Care Network was formed so that doctors could, in a very organized fashion, donate charity care to people who could not afford care otherwise. These would be people at or below 150% of the federal poverty level who don't qualify for Medicaid or VA benefits or vocational rehab or anything else. We do work with the primary care providers in all of the counties, including the Wakulla Medical Center and the primary care privately practicing doctors out in Wakulla County. We see a good number of Wakulla County patients who are in need of specialty care and can't get it otherwise. In 2011-12, you'll see in the materials that we gave to you, we had 141 patients referred. 96 of those became patients. The others were referred to other services that could pay for their services, so they still got taken care of, but they found a payer. We had 422 patient visits scheduled, and the total value of the services that were donated to Wakulla County patients was almost $1 million. It was $921,000. All that was done with funding from Wakulla County that includes funding that we receive from you. You have very graciously given us funds since 2002 that range anywhere from $3,500 initially. It got up to $6,000 one year and dropped again to $3,000. We have stayed at $3,000 from the county for the last several years. The United Way in Wakulla County also contributes, and so does the Wakulla County Health Department. Those funds total $10,000, which you can see is just about 1% of the value of the services that your patients receive from us. I think it's important for you to know that we try very hard to coordinate this care so that people are referred back to their medical home. We only take people who have seen a primary care physician, so we do a lot of work to get people into primary care first. We take the referral, and then we refer them back with all of their information. We have case managers that are working with the patients to make sure they understand what they need to do. We have very limited funds to help them with transportation and medications once they do see the specialist. And then we try to get them back with their primary care physician. We have seen over the years that people don't just come for one single visit, that once these referrals are received, there are multiple other specialties that end up being involved. These are very chronically ill and complex patients in most cases. We do know, I can't tell you quantitatively, but we know that this decreases unnecessary and inappropriate visits to the ER, which is a benefit to you all for this low-income population. So we would ask you this year to consider increasing your funding of this program to $5,000 if that's something you can find in your budget. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I have with me our program coordinator, Rosemary Worley, also.
Go ahead.
What was it that brought to your attention? Microphone?
His microphone.
The Wakulla County government, I believe, pays for uncompensated care, emergency room care for residents that receive care in outlying counties. If you have a very low-income resident that has emergency services at Tallahassee Memorial or another healthcare facility like that, there is an exchange of funds that happens from the county to the hospital. And I believe that it's a pretty clear pathway to reduce the number of people that go to the ER, to get them into these specialty physicians before. And honestly, when we ask these patients how would they have gotten care if this program were not available, they all say, I would either not get it or I would go to the ER. So
That's the thing that really struck me about this, is that it keeps people out of Medicaid, which we pay for. We're gonna end up, you know what I'm saying, if they don't get the care, they're gonna go to the emergency room, and we're gonna pay for all of it. This is more of a preventative issue.
And it really is a very successful public-private partnership because these are donated services. Our physicians feel very good about being able to give away charity care, and the only reason they feel, well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons they feel very good about this is they know we have done our part up front to check and make sure there is no other payer, and that we're spreading those referrals out evenly among the 300 doctors that are taking them.
Good things to consider at our next budget hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, here comes the exciting part of the presentation of the audit.
It's a pleasure delivering the annual audit of Wakulla County. I know the commissioners have had opportunity to have a previous copy, and they have one. I promise you, first of all, I will not review all 208 pages, and so I'll try to just do the highlights and then be pleased to answer any questions, address any concerns.
Can we make that clear that we just got ours and we have not read them?
Yes, I got mine on email, I think. I don't know.
Okay, well,
It wasn't paper.
we haven't gone through this yet.
I
At least
understand.
I haven't.
Right. No.
Okay.
I think it was delivered to you guys on Wednesday.
Yeah,
they were emailed last
email
week.
copy,
Yeah.
yes.
I was unavailable last week, so.
That's fine.
And I need more time as well.
Sure. Well, you'll be happy after this presentation, after you review it, to attend a future meeting or have you call me, just anything. It's not an issue. On page 8 and 9 is the audit opinion. It states it's a complete audit of the county, completed in accordance with applicable auditing standards that include the financial auditing standards, the government auditing standards, the state single audit standards, and the federal single audit standards. So you've had the 4 levels of audit procedures. In an audit, what you seek is a clean, unqualified opinion that states that the financial statements are an accurate reflection of how the county stood at the end of the fiscal year and what transpired financially during the year. You have that highest level, clean, highest level of assurance, which is a good reflection on the quality of the financial records and practices of the county. The next area, beginning on page 10, is some required overview information on the county, titled Management's Discussion and Analysis. In the interest of time, because all of this information is taken from the financial statements, I'll just review highlights of financial statements. And so the first statement I would like to review is the page 24, the balance sheet of the governmental funds. These are fund-based financial statements, which are basically the cash-oriented statements. So the balance sheet, the total assets at the end of the year were $12,046,507, and you can see that of that, the general fund, the main fund of the county, the assets are $4,061,068. The total fund liabilities, $3,093,792. The fund balances are basically cash reserves. The total reserves, $8,952,715. And if you look at the general fund, the total reserves are $2,974,124. Of that, you have various restricted reserves. Now it's called unassigned, unrestricted reserve, $1,296,543. Now it's good that it's the positive. That represents about 1 month of general fund expenditures. The fund balance policy that you have says that should be built up so that it's like 25 to 33%, which is 3 to 4 months. But at the moment, at this year end, it was about 1 month, but that was an improvement over the prior year. If you look at the ending column for the total governmental funds, and you add the assigned and unassigned reserves, which total basically $3 million, it represents 5 weeks of all of the governmental fund expenditures. So you have positive reserves in this year, but they're still are not at the level required by your fund balance policy. Okay, the next statement is on page 25. Here's with revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance of those same funds, the governmental funds. The total revenues were $31,940,263. Expenditures $29,960,659. After the transfers in and out, you had a positive excess revenues over expenditures of $1,615,861, which basically contributed increased your beginning unrestricted reserves up to twice. And so it was a good year financially in the governmental funds. The other funds that you have are your enterprise funds, and your enterprise funds have to do with solid waste. You have the sewer fund, solid waste fund. This is on page 27 and 28. Okay, on the balance sheet of the enterprise funds, the total assets, $18,564,721. The total liabilities, $3,136,975. The net assets, basically the net worth, the total is $15,427,746. However, if you look at the bottom, the unrestricted net assets is basically your cash equity in these funds, only $102,543. A financial as ratio that's often looked at, mainly a liquidity ratio, is the relationship between current assets and current liabilities. You like to be 2 to 1, 3 to 1. In your instance, you're 1 to 1. So it's not, these funds are not yet extremely liquid, and so it would be good to work to get more of the liquid cash assets.
Excuse me, can you explain that 1 to 1?
Okay. If you look at the number for current assets, the total $579,837. You see that?
Yep.
Okay. If you look in the liabilities section, and it's not a total on there, but if you add up the current liabilities, they are $511,996. In other words, the 3,136,975 minus the 2,624,979. So the 1-to-1 ratio is that you have 579,000 in assets to 512,000 in liabilities. It would be good if you had $1 million in assets to those same 500,000 in liabilities. Okay, the next page over is the revenue and expense statement. The intent of an enterprise fund is to operate off of the user charges. And in this year, your revenues were $3,689,439. Total expenses were, which include depreciation, were $3,663,709. After the transfers in and out and interest expense, you can see that the bottom line for the two funds was positive $298,303. So in this year, you again had a positive situation because, you know, in prior years you were operated in the deficit situation. So that is, again, continuation will increase the reserves and increase that ratio that I spoke of. So then a few of the notes I'd like to, after the notes, and if you go to page 46, is a table that contains the capital assets. And all the capital assets are grouped into either the governmental activities or business type activities. Of the governmental activities, your total assets are $87,615,189. Accumulated depreciation, $30,872,741. The net assets, $56.7 million. What is of note here, your assets are approximately 65% used up. So I would place you kind of in the governments we work with is probably average. There's others that have older assets, others that have newer assets. Also, just to an awareness that everyone should have the need for reserves, is you've used up 30 million of these assets, and there's not funds to replace those. In the enterprise fund assets, the total assets $25 million, accumulated depreciation $7 million, the net assets basically $18 million. Here your assets are about 28% used up, so your utility systems are probably newer than some of the others. Okay, the next area I'd like to quickly look at is the debt of the county at the end of the year. And this begins on page 51 is where it begins. Okay, the debt also is into the governmental and the business type. In the governmental area, at the top there's a note with Bank of America. The balance of it's $438,614, which is good. It pays out in probably a year from now. You also have another loan with Bank of America. The total is $1,436,620. It was also for road paving. It also pays out in about 5 years. The next loan is also road paving. The total on it was $140,799. It also pays about 5 years. At the top of 52, there's a small loan for roofing a fire station, $160,000. It pays out in about 4 more years. You have a loan for to partially pay for courthouse remodeling. Balance was $1,299,497. It also it pays out in 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure of the payments for this year. And then you have one other loan on the courthouse for a balance of $915,426. It pays out in 2021. The total of the 2 courthouse loans is about $2.2 million. And so, and then on 53, you had the 5 capital leases, but I think all but 2 were paid off, and you'll pay off the other 2 in the current fiscal year. And then in the business type, there's a sewer system loan balance $2,055,671. It also it pays out in about 6 years. And then you have the DEP loan that will pay out in 2032. And so the loans and all of the liabilities, basically the landfill closure liability and the compensated absences and the governmental activities, it went from $8,658,178 to $7,887,313. In the business type went from $2,833,666 to $3,029,346. So the total debt at the end of the county reduced, and it was $10,916,659. I think something is good to note here, that most of your amortization will be through in 4 to 6 years. You'll substantially reduce the debt that you have, which is commendable. Okay, so financially, you had a successful year. You reversed the prior years when you had declines, and so I think this is 2 years in a row that you've had positive financial results. Quickly on the management letters, on page 62 is our report on our audit procedures required by government auditing standards. These include internal control and compliance procedures. It has no findings or question costs. On page 94 is our... 62 or... Okay, it's on page 92. Unfortunately, in an audit, you have so many disclosures and required things that I'm trying to get just to I'm trying to not abuse my time slot and to get to the important things. On page 92 is that report on our audit procedures under government auditing standards. It again is a clean opinion, no question costs or findings. On page 94 is our combined report on our single audit procedures regarding federal and state grants. It has no findings or question costs. After it, for 3 pages, is the grant schedule of all the grants received, and which is always amazing to me over here. Your grants last year were $5.7 million, which is and if you look at the array of them, it's just many, many smaller ones that you had, but you had a lot of grant activity, and that naturally adds assets to the county. I'm sure that Mr. Edwards is happy. On page 102, there's been a long-standing finding over here, and it was even prior to our term serving as auditors, about the administration of purchase orders. And in this year, it was cleared up, and I'm so happy to remove that and have it not in the audit or or hopefully it won't reoccur, so yes, so we agree with that. Finally, on page 103 is the combined management letter of the county. And for the board, it's always good, all prior year findings were substantially corrected during the current year. In the current year, the only finding that we had from our audit procedures of the documentation relating to stipend payments to volunteer firemen, we found some minor instances in payments to two individuals at St. Mark's Fire Department. And it's, when we selected it random, some payments made, and then traced them back to attendance records, and it wasn't big amounts, but they just weren't exact. And so we recommend that the fire department verify that all stipend payments are fully documented by attendance records. The clerk court's office, no reportable findings in the prior year, no reportable in the current year. Property appraiser, no reportable in the prior, no reportable in the current. Sheriff, no reportable in the prior, no reportable in the current. Supervisor of elections, no reportable findings in the prior year, no reportable findings in the current year. Tax collector, no reportable findings in the prior year, no reportable findings in the current year. And it's excellent when you can do that. The annual report that's filed electronically with the state is in agreement with the audited financial statements. The county properly invested public funds. The county was not in a financial emergency situation at the end of the year. Financial condition assessment, as required by rules of the Auditor General, we did financial condition assessment procedures, and I've given you the highlights of those. And in that, we noted no deteriorating financial conditions. But in the prior year, we noted some. The total fund balance, the governmental funds increased by $297,154, which included an increase in the general fund of $923,438, road department of $985,32. So you increased that $1.9 million last year, and at that stage you had total assigned and unassigned fund balances of approximately 5% of governmental funds. So that's kind of like saying in the prior year you had just a little over 1 month of total expenditures. Now in the current year, and I've already given you these highlights, but it's up to now 5 weeks. And so it's increasing some, but your fund balances are still below reasonable ones, and also the levels required by the fund balance policy that the board enacted. So we certainly recommend that the plan to reestablish these reserves be continued. Okay, all other areas, I think that's all. So I'll ask any questions or comments from the board at this time. Like I said, if you have none, I'd be happy to either have you call me later or come back to a future meeting.
I read most of this, and a couple things I gleaned is this statement: due to the fact that governmental fund balances, enterprise, blah, blah, are still substantially underfunded, we recommend the county continue its present course of action of increasing these reserves, which is building our fund balance up. Another interesting thing I got.
What page was that on, Randy?
105.
Thanks.
Okay, now back referring to page 10, management discussion. On one of the financial highlights says 2012 governmental expenses were $1.8 million lower than 2011 expenses. And David, maybe you could explain that a little bit. It says general government expenses decreased a little over $1 million, which is 15.4% reduction. Public safety expenses decreased $750,000 roughly. What is that public safety decrease?
I'm gonna let Greg answer that question. I know the answer, but he can explain it a heck of a lot better than I can.
Economic environment expenses decreased $602,000.
Public safety includes,
13.
the public safety is a combination of all of the sheriff's budget, all of your EMS, all of your fire, and animal control. It's a combination of all of those.
Combination of all of them, just like I told you once.
I can get you the detailed breakdown individually, but I don't have that off the top of my head.
All those departments, other than the sheriff's department, obviously, under the board control. I just, if you didn't know any better, you'd think all this cuts was come from the sheriff's department,
Well, big part of it was a big improvement in EMS and fire.
but overtime,
EMS,
probably,
yes.
EMS and fire.
What was your increase in debt? What was our increase in debt?
It was actually,
Decrease.
I think, a decrease.
Well, yeah, okay, we didn't have an increase.
And
What was that decrease?
Okay, I think it was rough, but it is. And if,
Right at $1 million, wasn't it?
yes, I think it was right at $1 million, but okay, the total debt went from 11.5 million to 10.9 million. So overall, it's about $500,000. Now, the debt, the loans decreased about $1 million, but you had some increase in the compensated absences and your OPEB liability.
You know, sick time, basically.
Yeah.
Vacation time. Now, one more.
Straight loan went down $1 million.
Another interesting thing about the loans too is, if you look at the amortization schedule, a lot of them are scheduled to be paid off in the next
And that
4
is
years.
good, yeah.
Would you send me, I like to see ratios, that's a real quick way of seeing where you are.
Surely.
Can I email you, or you send me the ratios that each of these sections should have?
Okay, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? That
Yes,
our-
yes, I know what you're saying.
There's probably 10 different sections, I need to see the ratios at each of those, because that sums it up totally, that's where you are.
Yes,
That's how your ratios are.
yes, sir.
If you don't mind, send it to me as well.
Okay, yes, sure.
Anybody else have any?
Well, I just wanted to clarify what you were saying earlier, the amount of reserves we have right now, that would equate to 5 weeks of running, and you recommended 3 months, is that what?
Auditors recommend high amounts, I'd say 3 to 6 months.
Yeah,
but your
that's kinda high.
But your policy is 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, we have a policy the board adopted.
And it's commendable that you have a policy. Not all counties or governments have such a policy.
All right, very exciting.
I tried to be interesting and exciting.
I would also like to thank our staff. Staff is what got us here. Staff is what got that good report.
Yes.
Staff is the reason that we have gotten to where we're at. We've watched our nickel, we've watched our dime, and I'd like to thank the staff for doing it for
know
us.
it's just very-
Job well done.
I know it's just a very small finding about the stipends. It would be nice to have a clean audit.
He had to find something.
Well, just, all the other constitutionals all have nothing.
I traded you one for one.
He had to trade, he had to come up with something, so.
Well, in the past, it was the purchase orders, then it was a collection of money at the landfill, which has gone away. That was a hit every year, was the scale house.
No, but I'm proud of that. I think that's a good, we're in, the county's in an improving financial situation, and we feel like we're good stewards of the county's money.
Excellent.
Heading in the right direction.
Mark Mitchell, the update on the Restore Act.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. In the past month, since last time I talked to you, we held 5 public meetings, and all were well attended, had some very good questions and citizen input. The committee is allowing citizens to present projects on pots 2 and 3. We don't have any control over those pots, but we've been giving them a letter of approval to carry their projects forward. And hopefully that will generate into something good for the county. Everything that even pots 2 and 3 bring to our county is a good thing for us. So we hope maybe our little stamp of approval will help them go forward. We're committed to stay the course and work hard, even though we don't know any rules and we don't know we have any money. But we're still working on it. We're still having our regular monthly meetings. We're still working on a rating system. I had a phone conversation with Doug Darling 2 weeks ago, and he suggested that no other county is working on any kind of a rating or grading system at all. We're the only ones that's even looking at it. But I think that's going to give us a leg up if and when we do get the money. and the rules. And so for right now, all we can do is take it just one step at a time. And that's about it.
Any questions?
I'd like to compliment you on getting to where you are, because I know that Walton County just about 2 weeks ago had just started their process.
Everybody tells us we're way ahead, so we're trying to do the best we can.
I'd like to say that I've heard from several other commissioners in other counties that they're using the ordinance from Wakulla County as their model, so
Yep.
you guys are definitely, we're moving things forward a lot faster, so hopefully that'll help us when those rules do hit the streets.
Yep.
I wanted to add one more thing that, I'm the board's liaison person on the Restore Act Committee, and he referred to pots 2 and 3, and pots 2 and 3 are regional pots. They're looking for several counties to come together. There may come a time at some point where a neighboring county will ask us to pass a resolution for their project, but at the same time, we may at some point send a resolution to a neighboring county for one of our projects, and it's just part of the regional thing to better everybody's chances.
Excellent.
Commissioner Harden been working specifically with Franklin County, and it finally seems like we're getting some headway.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'd like to give y'all just a real quick update on the Rock the Dock fishing tournament. It was a huge, huge success. At the captain's meeting on Friday night, we served over 500 seafood dinners, so we feel like we had at least 200 people that didn't eat, so we feel like we had 700 people at the captain's meeting. And over the course of the weekend, it started on a Thursday night with a fishing seminar, went all the way through Sunday. We feel like we brought over 5,000 people to Panacea over the course of the weekend, so it was a real success. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mark.
That's a lot of money to the county, because they're gonna all spend $500 on the weekend, and
Well, I don't have a boat, can't afford one. All right, we got a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
All right, Ralph, you want to pull item 7?
Absolutely. The last time this came before us was for a beautification grant for $100,000. I opposed it at that time. Not opposed to the beautification, not opposed to receiving the money. I'm opposed to the additional expense it's going to cause us to maintain the plant material there. I think like we just heard, we're doing good and we're heading in the right direction, but I think we need to be just vigilant in that effort. We're only 5 weeks of reserves. Anything that's not essential, that's going to require us to increase our workload and increase our expenses, I think we just need to take a strong look at that, and I believe this is in that category that it would be nice to have, but it's going to cause us to spend additional money and maintain it and dedicate additional resources, so I'm going to be opposed to this as well.
Certainly appropriate call for consent agenda. Is there a motion by another commissioner on this item?
I was wanting to ask just to kind of clarify, is there any dollar amount that is estimated it would, the ongoing expense to maintain them once it gets put in?
I believe that's
$5,800.
Yeah. How much?
$5,800.
$5,800, and that's yearly cost, but also that's, currently we started a program this week of, our state prisoners. We're letting them maintain the bike trail, and like I said before, we're going to incorporate that into the overall maintenance of the bike trail. So our cost primarily will be initially for about 2 or 3 years will be the watering. That will tail off over the years, and past that, if there's a light installed, that would be an electrical. But other than that, be some plant replacement. But we'll be using our state prisoner workforce to maintain these.
having said that, what do you think our cost will be?
I've got it broken down. I think the water we had like $2,000 a year budgeted or something like that.
This is $100,000 roughly grant.
Yeah.
And it's mostly going to be used for buying
Plant
plants.
material, buying and installing plant material to, basically it dresses up our county entry, and it makes us,
Is there any way we can mandate that be spent locally? Or is it straight competitive bid?
It'll be a competitive bid process, but
Preference.
but we have local preference, and we're hoping the local guy that helped us put this together, will work, hopefully he can get the job, but if not, he can't, but still, there is local preference.
Is all of that out at Ocklackney Bay?
Excuse me?
Does all of that work go out at Ocklackney Bay?
Yes, at Ocklackney Bay, that's right.
Now, $100,000, that ought to jump at you when you come across the
It'll
bridge.
jump at you, yes, sir.
If I drive by there and see 10 trees and that's all, it's gonna be pretty disappointing, of course.
I would pick up the phone and call me if that was the case.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion on the side?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion, is there a second? I don't let it die, nobody seconds it.
I'm gonna second it.
Okay, and I want to say, I totally agree with what Commissioner Thomas is saying as far as being careful on expenditure, but this is a non-match grant. Yes, we are going to have that few $1,000s a year to maintain it for whatever number of years until the vegetation gets a hold. But this is what is also going to drive people wanting to come to Wakulla County, the presentation of Wakulla County, and I think it is an economic incentive that is well used to bring people here.
Okay, we got one citizen, Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Ed Bremner, 46-9 Gables. It's interesting, this last weekend I was with the Republican Party of Florida in Franklin County, and we were gathered together with people throughout Congressional District 2, Congressman Sutherland's district. And one of the sidebar discussions that we had was this exact issue that I did not bring up, but there were city commissioners and county commissioners from other cities and counties throughout this district, and they were talking about that they were absolutely having to turn down grants that sounded so good, but they just couldn't afford them. We just got through with a budget presentation, an audit presentation, and it clearly states that our reserves are not sufficient at this time by our own policies, not by the policies of the auditor who recommends 6 months, but we said we want 3 months, and we're at 5 weeks. This board does not seem to understand that the only way to build the reserve is to reduce costs or raise taxes. Now, you guys got the raising taxes down pretty good, with the exception of a couple. But to build the reserves, we have got to reduce costs, and just continuing to add costs will not result in this. I highly recommend that you not pass this thing. Not that I'm opposed to beautiful entrances. There's certain things that we just don't have to have, and this is one of those. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
I would just like to reemphasize that, especially on the entrances to our county, that when you have an attractive, nature-driven entrance, it is going to mean more to our economy, and I think it is a prudent thing to do.
I wish this was, well, I shouldn't say that. I hope we do something like this at the entrance to 319 also, we can get another grant for this.
I have an idea, I'm gonna float to you guys.
Quality of life and pride in my community, and I'd like to see.
Most definitely.
Motion?
Well, all right.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I do want to say one thing. I am intending on voting for this, but the reason that I'm explaining why is because we don't have the means to do this any other way. And we're looking at, $100,000 that's coming from a grant that may cost us, is on the upside, possibly $1,500 a year, but I believe that could be trimmed down a lot more using the inmate prisoners, and as far as beautification, it is a necessity. It is one that does add some amenities to our county, especially the entrance roads, and I will be voting for it.
More discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. All right, David? Item 12.
I'll handle it, Mr. Chairman. This item is requesting board directions regarding the adoption of an overlay zoning district regulations for 3 three specific areas: Grinders Additions, Magnolia Gardens, and Wakulla Heights subdivision. The board will recall that staff has been before you previously regarding these particular restrictions that really impose more homeowner association type requirements on properties, specifically with regard to the age of a mobile home and some buffer requirements. Originally, staff had directed, or the board had directed staff to repeal the restrictions entirely. At a subsequent meeting, the board gave us additional direction to then, instead of repealing them, come back and re-adopt the zoning restrictions that are there now as overlays, including the age of the mobile home. And we were looking at preparing that item. We did some additional legal research and came across a state statute that specifically prevents the county from placing restrictions on the siting of mobile homes due to the unit's age. Given that, we are back before you again to get further direction on options on how to treat these three areas, since we cannot recommend that the board, A, keep the existing restrictions in place, since they directly conflict with state law, or re-adopt them as zoning overlays, since they are directly in conflict with state law.
That was the real wrench in the wagon wheel there, was that let's them straight and stay them all.
Well, we're not hearing that we have the option to vote to rezone this as an R1.
And not allow mobile homes at all?
That's correct.
That's correct, you can.
Then I make a motion that we go to an R1 zoning,
All of it, Magnolia Gardens, Grinders, everything?
everything.
Okay. Got a motion, is there a second?
Could I make a comment before we get into all that? Since my meeting on Friday with Heather and David, I've researched this quite a bit, and the statute that she's referring to that is in conflict with our ordinance is 320.8285, and it states, "No local jurisdiction shall prohibit siting or resiting of used mobile homes based solely on the date the unit was manufactured." Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would like to submit that this statute is not in violation with our ordinance. And the reason for that, if we look at Florida State Statute 320.01, it provides the definitions that apply to this statute that you referenced. And paragraph 2A refers to a definition of mobile home. Paragraph 2B refers to a definition of manufactured home. Our ordinances cover manufactured homes. This statute refers to mobile homes. The main difference is a manufactured home was built after June of 1976 and has the appropriate HUD label. And so the vast majority of homes that are in question there are not going to meet the definition of mobile home, but will fall under the criteria for manufactured home. If I'm wrong, correct me, but that's the way I see it.
I believe there's a separate statute containing the identical language for manufactured homes.
Well, that's not what was given to us, so I'd like to see
Sure,
that.
I can give that to you.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of critical that we know that.
Yeah.
Because if he's right, then we can proceed with the zoning overlay, and everything pretty much stays the way it is. If he's not right, then we need to decide if we want to do R1.
Right, I agree, but just based on the information presented, I think that we were probably on an acceptable path.
In the event that, let's say our attorney is correct in her discussion, then I would make the motion we go ahead and do the overlay of an R1. If it turns out that she happens to be wrong, then we can come back and redo it.
It actually wouldn't be an overlay, it would be R1.
Well, I think it's too much in question that we need to clear that up before we move forward.
I'd like to make a motion to table.
I second the motion. I think,
I can look up the statute right now.
Can you look it up on the computer?
Yeah.
All right.
I can look it up in the book.
Just, let's move on to the next item, and then we'll come back and give Heather a chance to look it up.
Not a,
Would you withdraw your motion?
Yes, I withdraw my motion.
David, let's move on to the Kimley Horn thing.
Okay. This agenda item requests board approval of Kimley Horn IPO 2013-1 for water and sewer revenues sufficiency analysis for the RSDA Rural Development Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrades. As you know, we're progressing through a USDA grant/loan program for the upgrading of our wastewater treatment plant, as well as the refinancing of our existing debt in our wastewater treatment plant. And in order to do that, USDA has some fairly stringent financial reporting and financial analysis need to be done. We have talked with staff, primarily Greg, and we met with Cleve this morning, and we believe that after much debate, we believe that we can do this work in-house. But I would like to ask the board to at least go ahead and approve this. We will not I'd like to have this just in case, to be able to come and fall back to these guys, just in case there's too much money on the line. There's about $11 million on the line.
I make a motion to approve.
If necessary.
If necessary.
Second.
I've got a motion, second. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. What is the deadline that we're looking at?
It's the end of June, end of this month,
Right on.
yes. It's a quick trigger.
Yeah, okay.
Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
David, you had a add-on item, was it that emergency?
Yes, sir, I do. We call it emergency repairs, but actually it's not. We've known about it for some time. This is a request us to go outside of the county purchasing policy. We have requested proposals and bids from numerous contractors to do the labor to repair the roof at the Panacea Volunteer Fire Station. We've gotten 2 respondents to that, and we'd like to have the authority to move forward. Actually, we have, as of this afternoon, we've changed up, and we'd actually like to go with the higher bidder by $400, because the primary reason of that is we do get a 5-year labor warranty with that, and we feel like that would be worth it. So we'd like to move forward with the.
It's a budgeted.
It's a budget. We've got it within the MSBU funds. Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
I don't know how Jerry managed to get a donation for the roofing materials.
I've got a comment on that, and it's one of those deals why government costs 10 times as much as private enterprise costs. The fire department was leaking, so you've got to fix a leaking roof whether you have the money or not, because it'll cost you 10 times as much. But I went to a local business and I said, fellows, we need a little help. And they said, well, we'll let you have it at our cost. And I said, no, that's not the kind of help that we really want. We really need a donation. And they really quickly said that we will donate the materials that are needed, and that include the roof, the soffit, the fascia, and whatever. So I'm thinking that maybe the prisoners out at the work camp can do the work, and it turns out that they probably couldn't. Well, the next thing is that, well, we'll just get a local contractor. Well, you can't do that. A local residential contractor cannot work on a commercial building.
LDS is local.
Yeah, I know, but they're commercial.
Right.
They're commercial. So you can't have just a residential contractor who costs less work on a commercial building. So we got to go all the way to a commercial contractor to do a roof. And it's really bad in the worst sense. Not that he doesn't need to work and whatever, and I'm glad he's going to get it. But it's so much of government that you just can't get by government to have a simple thing like you can't even have a roofer put on a roof. Now that's how bad it is that you've got to have a commercial contractor to hire a roofer to put on the roof.
But license what? Commercial roof?
I don't know if you're doing more than a roof. If we were just doing the roof, it would be a state certified roofing contractor, because we're doing more than just the roof, the soffits.
We're nailing some boards on the side of the building, so I understand that. But it's, the additional part of, in addition to the roof, is just minuscule. That throws us into the commercial contract. Anyway, you gotta, it's
Thanks for getting the donation anyway.
And I would say that was Gulf Coast who did the donation.
Mikey, Gulf Coast.
Yes, they stepped up, and a good corporate citizen.
Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, Heather, did you get us?
I'm still looking at, I can't really.
Are there any citizens to be heard? We can move on to that. Is that okay?
On this item?
Yes. I'm gonna go ahead and do citizens to be heard.
Oh, okay.
While Heather's still looking it up.
Okay.
Say citizens be heard on this side or just a
No, citizens to be heard.
general? Okay.
Ed? Here, Heather. You're the only one.
I'm the only one?
You're the only one.
Well, that's interesting too, that I'm the only one that's here, and again, my name's Ed Bremner, 46-9 Gables. And I think that has a lot to do with the time that we're having this meeting, at 2 o'clock. And, as I personally, I like coming to the meetings, I like, being involved with, county government and knowing what's going on. And the last 2 o'clock meeting, I couldn't make it. And I'm one of the, folks that is lucky enough to have a job that I'm very flexible, and I can do work at 10 o'clock at night if that's when I need to do it, or I can do it at 8 o'clock in the morning. So my job is very flexible, and I'm able to be here. And yet, it's extremely inconvenient for me to get here. And I highly recommend that after your trial period, that you guys move this back to a 5 o'clock meeting. I just think it's much more convenient for the citizens, and I appreciate you hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me see that section.
That's the one she gave us.
We're not on item 12 yet. Heather's still looking it up. So, Heather, you're thinking 320.8285 under on-site inspection or somewhere else, because it does just say mobile home.
Well, I know that there is a case that interpreted a similar provision dealing with manufactured homes. I didn't look that up specifically for this, and I'm having trouble searching for it on my iPad, so I can certainly, if you guys want to table this, we can bring it back.
We have a motion and second to table it to the next meeting.
So we still have a,
Not, this is a separate agenda than yours.
No, it's the same.
Okay.
so I'd motion to table again.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to table it. We have to figure this out.
But, the thing I would like to, I would like to hear from the people that are here to speak on it, even though we're gonna table it to the next meeting, they're here, you know, that we can allow each of them to speak, because they may not be here in the next
Anytime there's a
meeting.
motion and a second.
Okay.
All right, Gina Rudd?
But, you know, Heather does have to get that information.
Yeah.
Hello, Gina Rudd. I'm currently 81 Beechwood, but trying to get back to Grinders Edition. You guys are making it hard. I wasn't going to say anything until Jerry made the motion to repeal the ordinances to disallow for mobile homes. I just want to make a comment that, first of all, there's a lot of mobile homes in those neighborhoods, so what about those guys? Just think about that moving forward. And then back to my situation, I would love to be able to build a house. I would really much rather live in a site-built home than a mobile home or a manufactured home. But I can't afford it. Mobile home, manufactured home, whatever is the only way we can get back to our property. And the last time when you guys voted on the overlay, that in the event of a disaster such as mine, we can move a mobile home the same age or newer. That would work out fine, and just, if for whatever reason you disallow mobile homes, to make the exception, in my case, to allow us, because we have been, it's already taken so long, it's ridiculous, and just please remember that. I would hate to see all the work and research and meetings and emails I put in this for us to say, oh, no mobile homes allowed. So just please think about that.
I think Chris brought this up. This is not a cut and dry issue. We really need to think about everybody that's being affected by this. Kim? Right? Kramer?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Kim Kramer. I live at 50 Melody Lane. There's been a lot of conversation going back and forth about talking to people in the neighborhoods, and that we gathered probably 100+ signatures just in Magnolia Gardens. People say, oh, we got to be careful of this, careful of that. I understand that, and there's a lot of property rights, but I think you really need to consider where the county's going, where the money for the county is eventually going to come from. If you look at mobile homes and what they bring to you as taxable income and where they are in 5 years or 10 years, and they don't increase in value, they decrease in value, so therefore the income to the county, which you were all striving for and to improve, keeps going down. There are a number of mobile homes already in Magnolia Gardens that pay no taxes because they're under the $25,000, and they're not homesteaded either. So, we talk about property issues. I'd really like you to consider the property rights of all the people, the hundreds and hundreds of people that have already built stick-built homes and invested their future, their time, their money, and their taxes in McCullough County. If you look at a mobile home over time, the cost for insurance increases because they're not as well built. The maintenance on them is high. The utility costs are high. Those are things that are just not valuable and viable to taking care of and improving McCullough County. So what I'd like to do is that if the rule and whatever changes and you cannot, come to an understanding or an overlay to allow the existing rules, the people that I've talked to, the hundreds of people that I've talked to in Magnolia Gardens are requesting that you completely eliminate mobile homes from McCullough Gardens. If you want to do things in other ones,
Magnolia.
Pardon?
Magnolia Gardens.
Magnolia Gardens, I'm sorry. And that's what we're asking. Any questions of me? Thank you very much for your time.
You got to remember too that there's several subdivisions in play here. What a lot of people call Logan's Ridge is actually Griner's Addition. There's different restrictions on Griner's and there are on Magnolia Gardens, so it's convoluted. Teresa?
My name's Teresa Kramer, and I'm also located at 50 Melody Lane in Magnolia Gardens. What I would like to do is present the petition to the commission.
Thank you.
I'll pass them down so you can go ahead and talk.
You have one for the,
Is this only Magnolia Gardens?
This is only Magnolia Gardens. That's all that this is. Unfortunately, word did not get to the other two subdivisions, but we were aware of this earlier, and I first want to thank the commissioners for listening to the plea from the homeowners in Magnolia Gardens the first time and choosing to go with the overlay zoning. With this new hitch with the age, and I know exactly, after working in the legislature, exactly how it happens. The mobile home lobby comes in, they tuck something in that has an age restriction, and it's not healthy for anyone. Not the mobile home buyers, the folks who reside in mobile homes, and not the counties that they are in. Because these extremely old mobile homes are very expensive for county governments. They require a lot more of county services in that they are not storm ready. They're not constructed to withstand the storms that our site-built homes are constructed to withstand. And when you start putting older mobile homes in high densities, which in these three subdivisions, they're on very small lots. In fact, two of the three subdivisions, both Griner's Addition and Magnolia Gardens, is in your central town plan for Crawfordville. So I'd like you to keep that in mind, that that's where we are. As far as the number of mobile homes versus site-built homes, we have reviewed that. I went, we drove through the neighborhoods and we counted up each of the homes. In Magnolia Gardens, the site-built home to mobile home or manufactured, it's home ratio, 90% site-built versus 10% mobile. Of those mobile homes that we do have in Magnolia Gardens, 5 are currently foreclosed upon and owned by a bank. The remainder, 4 of the homes have no taxable value whatsoever, so they pay 0 in taxes to the county. 4 have a taxable value of less than $25,000, and the other 5 have a taxable value of $25,000. So as you can see, compared to the site-built homes that are having taxable values of $75,000, $100,000 in this area, we're concerned about that. The other concern is, as you can see, the individuals within our county that live there right now are residents voting, and many of them have several lots. My husband and I own 4 lots in Magnolia Gardens.
Wrap it up.
Okay. But the other concern is that the builders in the area have spoken very, very loudly, and I'm sure you've gotten a phone call from some of them. They will stop building site-built homes in these areas. And these areas are your core areas of Wakulla County, of Crawfordville Town Plan. So we would appreciate it. In addition, I think the zoning deals with both mobile homes and manufactured homes, so it would impact our our mobile homes. Thank you.
Rick Halverson.
Hello, Rick Halverson, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for hearing me. 55 Lance Lane, just a stone's throw from courthouse and where we are today. I agree with presentations in favor of limiting the number of mobile homes, but I'm looking at it as a more of a living and livable area. We retired in Wakulla County, lived in Wakulla Station for 2 years, and we were going to retire in Tallahassee, but we love the area. Found a home down here, and it's a modest home because of our retirement income, and the lots are 50 by 100 in Magnolia Gardens, and the first thing the builders have to do is take out every tree, and you can go look at all the houses in there, and every tree is gone unless it's been planted and started to grow. I even checked, and this isn't a requirement by the county, to remove the houses within so many feet of a home like there is in other areas. Simply the way they have to clear the lot to get the improvements in on 50 by 100 lot for the house, for a 1,200 square foot house, a huge drain field, and having some front yard and driveway. It's a good neighborhood, a lot of young kids, a lot of folks that are retired. It's a starter/finisher neighborhood, as I like to call it. There's a lot of young families and then folks retiring there. And I think it's kind of a showcase of that size home in the area, and it's really close to home, being near the courthouse. But appreciate you listening to everybody, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sherry.
Hi, my name is Sherry Eddington. I live at 16 Evans Avenue, that's in Logan's Ridge, which is part of Griner's Addition. My neighborhood was built basically in '06. Actually, the builders just started building there again. Right at the beginning of Logan's Ridge. We had the Parade of Homes, which is very popular in Tallahassee, but a builder out of Tallahassee just built a home right at the beginning of Home and Point. The agent who had the Parade of Homes had 200 people come through her Parade of Homes in the past 2 weekends. So basically what I'm trying to say, and I just found out about this morning, otherwise I would have a petition from all of my neighbors, and I'll be glad to do that if needed. But I'm just saying, on behalf of all my neighbors, let's just keep it how it is, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed?
I'm beginning to feel like an unnamed guy who usually sits right here and speaks on every issue, and I apologize for that, Commissioners. I really didn't intend to do this. This is also one that came up. Our founding fathers were very concerned. They talked about something called the tyranny of the majority, and this is a primary case of that. I think you've had 2 views of this before you tonight. You've had this young lady come up that can't afford a site-built home. And I think we all agree that a site-built home in the long run is a better investment. But if you can't afford that site-built home, then you're relegated to renting, which is a horrible investment for someone. I think that the crony capitalism that you guys are talking about here is all about helping the people that already have money, that have a site-built home, or that builder who doesn't want to compete with that mobile home that comes in there to prevent future mobile homes. And just as a side note, people talk about mobile homes being a death trap in a storm and all this sort of things, and it's true. A home built before 1993 did not meet the same standards as any site-built home. But I went to a recent seminar on mobile homes, and any home built since 1993, I contend, is probably better able to withstand a storm than the average site-built home in Wakulla Gardens today. They are built to a higher standard. Their hurricane strapping is much better. They're built inside of a building, and they're not, the guy who's cutting there, it's all built with jigs, and the precision is much better than the typical site-built home. And so I highly recommend that we at least don't make any moves today, that we at least think about the fact that people who live in mobile homes, they're not inferior neighbors. And that kind of was implied today, is that, boy, if you have somebody living in a mobile home next to you, they're an inferior neighbor. They're going to bring down your neighborhood. And I think that is very unfair, and it's something that we just do not want to get into, penalizing folks who can't afford that $75,000 to $100,000 house. And I just this is an area that it is an affordable neighborhood, and just be careful of doing what you're thinking about doing.
Well, if we had my way, we'd do nothing on it, but what did you find out, Heather?
Well, I'm unclear where the definition of mobile home that you're referring to is, Ralph, because the definitions for that section...
It is section 320. Heather, the restrictions
Hey, hold on. The definitions that apply to... There's a separate set of definitions that apply to 320.8285.
Defines it differently.
It doesn't define it at all. But then you go to the one I was thinking of is in chapter 553, dealing with manufactured buildings. It specifically talks about manufactured buildings as separate from mobile homes. A mobile home is any residential unit constructed to standards promulgated by Housing and Urban Development, and it does contain similar language. It does not specifically have the age, but it does say that if you put any requirements on there, such local requirements and rules, and this is dealing with the architectural and aesthetic, must be reasonable and uniformly applied and enforced without any distinction as to whether a building is conventionally constructed or a manufactured building. So it has very similar language, and this one has been interpreted by the 11th Circuit.
There's also a modular home, which you can't discriminate against, versus site home. I don't know, there's so many different categories of homes.
Yeah, there's different, but what both these statutes speak to is you can't really treat mobile homes or manufactured homes differently than you treat regular site-built constructed homes.
Okay, now what does all this mean? Is Ralph's reading correct, or is your reading?
I mean, we can continue to look at it. I don't think Ralph was looking at the 553 statute, because it was not cited in the agenda item, so it would be fair that he hadn't looked at that. But what the 553 statute does is sort of apply the same things to manufactured homes as well.
That's a silly question. If we proceeded down the road of taking the overlay zoning, exact same standards we have today, and we adopted it.
R1.
No. Same thing we have today. If we adopted that, well, you said it wouldn't be in compliance with the law. Somebody have to sue us that wanted to put a mobile home in at the city county?
Yes, that's the way it would be enforced,
Anybody
yeah.
sue the county in the last 20 years over that?
I have no idea.
I don't think so.
But other counties have been sued over it in Florida.
Well, I mean, we need to resolve that issue about the definition? If you're 100% sure that we can't say, if you're 100% sure that we can't adopt the standards we have today, then we need to move this conversation in a different direction.
Well, I mean, I can read you the 553.38 specifically says, very similar language. Local governments can have local land use and zoning requirements, fire zones, building setback requirements, side and rear yard requirements, site development requirements, property line requirements, subdivision control, and on-site installation requirements, as well as the review and regulation of architectural and aesthetic requirements. Those are reserved to the county. Such local requirements and rules may be enacted by local authorities. They must be reasonable and uniformly applied and enforced without any distinction as to whether a building is a conventionally constructed or manufactured building.
I'll ask the, go ahead, Ralph.
I just didn't hear you reference age and all of that.
Well, and I said that when I began, that it does
Right.
not specifically have the age in there, but
I
if
think
we're
in
going to
that
have an
absence, we have to
age
go back
on
to the
mobile
other
homes, we have to
definition.
have an age on, I mean,
the statute defines mobile and manufactured, and if that paragraph there doesn't specify age, in order for us to discriminate based on age, we have to go with a section of the statute that does specify age. And I don't know.
I'll ask a question.
She's the attorney, she's the expert, but I'm not convinced, and so maybe we need to table it like we're talking about, and let's take some more time and understand that.
that's fine.
Are you going to have a definitive answer?
I mean, as definitive as I can get, there's not a lot of case law on this area, so I can't tell you how a Florida court would rule. I can't predict the future, but I can give you my best advice.
I want to ask a question, just clarify this for myself. Okay, a modular home, this is like one step above what a lot of people consider modular home. These modular homes, they have 2x6 walls. They're built better to better standards than the site-built home that I live in now. Now, if we went the route of the R1 and not having any mobile homes, would that also mean someone couldn't locate a modular home there as well?
No, you can't discriminate against.
I'll ask the question. If we go to an R1 designation, that disallows future mobile homes.
Correct.
What I want to do is take care of the people that are there now. If they're there now, they stay.
Yes, they'd be great.
If they want to replace them, if they want to replace the home, then basically,
That's where you get to the
They
jam.
would not be allowed to.
they cannot do that.
That's where you get the jam. Howard?
Yeah, I think there's enough doubt at this point in time that's been raised that I think we need to table this, have the county attorney come back with her opinions as relates to the different scenarios we're being asked to vote on or choose from, and see how the weight of the law applies to each one of them.
Now, the scenario that we already did vote on, I think, was to do the overlay districts, keeping the exact same restrictions in place, just codify them, basically. And if we can do that, that is most certainly the route I would prefer.
She says we can't do that.
Well, she's gonna verify that, I think. We're gonna check in and see if we can do that or not.
If you can do the overlay
Yes, with the age.
with the age. Well, I mean, okay, the zoning things that exist right now specifically to the age of a mobile home. Quite clearly, we can have those.
Okay, well, that answers that question.
That's what I'm saying. Heather,
Then we need to move the conversation in a different direction if we can't restrict it on.
Now, whether there's distinctions that we need to make in our document dealing with manufactured homes versus mobile homes, that, I mean, I actually do need to do a case law search to
Can't
see
be mobile,
that.
but if we define it as manufactured, talking about two different
We
animals.
can restrict age. Say it?
Maybe.
Okay, well, that's enough.
Although I would never tell you that I think you can do that, even based upon the reasonably applied language that's in 553, but I would definitely look and see if there's any case law on that specific statute and let you all know.
Okay, we've got a motion, second table. Any more discussion?
I'd just like to say that, I'm not trying to build houses or build mobile homes, I'm just trying to get this right. We've got a mess, and we inherited this mess, and it's causing problems for people on both sides of this issue in the community. And all I'm trying to do is get to the truth, and that's gonna cause additional delay, so Ms. Rudd's not gonna be happy, that who knows what'll end up, and the other folks may not be happy, but we've got to get it right. We need to take our time and get it right, and hopefully at the end of the day, everyone can come to an agreement that we've exercised that and we've done it to the best of our ability.
I agree with you, because whatever we do is going to affect more than just Magnolia Gardens. It's going to be affecting Grinders and every other area. But if we also, as Ed Brenner brought up, we got to, I think, also consider there's not everybody's that got the same economic situation either. So if we go strictly just site built for all of those, we will be telling pretty much a group of people that they couldn't afford it, they wouldn't be able to live.
What does uniformly applied mean, definition? Does that mean we have to do this countywide, or can we do it strictly targeted?
I mean, that's the most conservative definition, but I think you could probably do it in the zoning
And
district.
we need to remember too, again, that there's, when we're thinking about this over the next couple of weeks, that there's 2 or 3 distinct subdivisions here. There's 2 or 3 distinct restrictions on them. Like, you can do stuff in Grinders, you couldn't do it in that yard. So it works. All right, more discussion? Call for the motion, aye?
Aye.
Item table. No, ma'am. All right.
We'll have a citizens to be heard. She can speak. We already had that. I'm sorry.
Well, Katie informed me that we're supposed to have one at the end of the meeting also,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay. This is the end, because all we have is discussion items left. So Teresa, if you want to fill out a card, knock yourself out. Sure.
Well, you want me to go, can I go to my item real quick? Or
No, you got an item?
I got it, just a discussion, or just an announcement, I should
Let
say.
David finish.
While she's filling out a card. There you go. I wanted to remind the public, as June 1st is the deadline to getting in your solid waste and fire hardship qualifications. Applicants can go on our website or come by the county administration building to get those applications. But June 1st is the deadline.
Have we reached out to the Senior Citizen Center?
Jessica has, yes, sir.
Okay. We really need to do all we can, because, every year, there's 2 or 3 people that come up and say
Yep.
no, or...
This year we've advertised it well, we've notified, so we've
Go
done
ahead,
it.
Teresa.
And my name is Teresa Kramer, 50 Melody Lane. And again, I want to reiterate that there's a very definite distinction, and I don't know that we got into this, between mobile homes and manufactured homes. Manufactured homes are controlled by the Department of Community Affairs to certain building standards, and that really, manufactured homes weren't addressed in the overlay zoning. So if you went to an R1 category, you could have site-built manufactured homes in our neighborhood, but not the mobile homes. And mobile homes cannot be dealt with by age. Statute's very clear on that. I'm sorry, I've lost it. But it's, the other thing you need to address, and I don't know that it's come before you or will, your building code has a restriction by age on the age of a mobile home that can come into Wakulla County. It has to be 1977 or newer. And the location finding the statute is going to affect that too. So, although we have some serious issues on these 3, as you mentioned, distinct neighborhoods, which can be dealt with differently, you also have this issue as to countywide of bringing in very old. Also, I just spoke with a neighbor of mine who does have a it's a modular type home. She just put an old mobile home for her son on a lot here in Wakulla County, not in any of our neighborhoods. She said it cost $5,000 for the rickety mobile home, but it cost $20,000 to move it to the lot and get it set up. She was so disappointed. She could have built a very small 1-bedroom site-built home, which is what her son really wanted, but instead she spent all of her savings and is now horribly depressed because she knows this old mobile home is not going to last. So those are some points I'd like to offer to you. People think that they can't afford a site-built home, when in the long run, when they think of their long-run energy costs, maintenance, and things like that, they really should be in a site-built home.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question, clarification?
Sure.
You mentioned the manufactured may be permissible under R1. Would folks on your petition be in agreement to that if we can make that work, do an R1?
It's a modular home.
A modular,
Oh, she said manufactured.
What she's talking
well,
about
it's
is
a,
modular. There's
it's a
difference
modular
between
Okay, well, she
controlled
said
by...
manufactured, but I mean, I
a
understand.
mobile home.
I understand.
Modular is more expensive, you got an engineered foundation.
A modular is
Yeah.
considered a site-built home for
Correct.
appraisal. Gotcha.
Right, the modular home, which is controlled by Florida Department of Community Affairs, they have Florida Department of Community Affairs, help me, Melissa, if I'm wrong, they have a sticker on them. We're not opposed to those.
Okay.
We're opposed to the mobile homes coming in, and if you rezone us to R1, the mobile homes would be prohibited, but the modular homes would not.
Just like the...
That is correct. And I
And
might
I
have
would
misheard
love
you,
to
but
see you
but
do
I
that.
thought I heard you say site-built and manufactured homes would be allowed, but
Well,
mobile
a
homes.
modular home is considered
That's what she knew.
manufactured.
No, there's three. There's a mobile home, a manufactured home, and a modular home. There are three distinct definitions.
I'm only aware of the two.
Anyway, we'll check into that.
Okay.
Rick?
We'll follow up
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Rick Halverson, I'm not real comfortable with having heard that we're looking down on people. My point is, and I forgot this part of it, you can't put a very large mobile home on a 50 by 100 foot lot. It would have to go on the 100. The 50 foot faces the road, and I don't think you could get a home in there unless you put the side of the building towards the road. I didn't finish my point on that. Also, we just bought out there 2 years ago. We paid $103,000 for our home. I went VA, 100% financing. Our payment, including taxes and insurance, is $637. I don't think people realize they can get into a nice site-built home, and ours is nice. 55 Lance Lane, and once you come look at it, or you can go to the Parade of Homes and look what can be built.
Wessinger built that house, didn't he?
Yes.
And you save $75 a month on your heating and air, probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because of the new equipment and the high efficiency? Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've never had electric bills this low. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck? Ed, you didn't tell Card out.
Let's check with the other Chuck. Chuck Robinson, Wakulla County Chamber of Commerce. You may have noticed I came in late. I just wanted to reiterate again, this is really a hard meeting to get to, the 2 o'clock start time. There were actually folks at the chamber asking me about this very this issue with zoning, and I think I caught most of it, but it's one of those things where, you know, this is kind of a big one, and part of our fears were missing out on the really big issues at hand because of a 2 o'clock meeting start. So just wanted to add that. And also a thank you to whoever on staff put up the link to the outline in Word doc format. That was perfect. We get the full outline Word doc format. I think we're all the way there. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. David, anything else?
That's us.
All right, Ralph? Discussion items?
Nothing more today.
Jerry?
The senior center had a fishing tournament, a kayak, the first annual senior center kayak tournament. They had 100 people that came from all over, and they held it at 3Y Ranch, and it was very successful also.
Excellent. I'd like to talk about the meantime. I just found out today, unbeknownst to me, the CRTPA meeting starts at 1 o'clock on the third Monday of the month. And I think that's a very important meeting that I need to be at. So, Ralph, you were kind of on the fence about it. If y'all want to go back to 5, we'll vote on it right now, 5-0, and we'll...
I'm all about going back to 5.
I think I know exactly what you
Yeah.
got.
No, you don't.
You don't?
No,
I thought you wanted to move it to 5. So,
that's correct.
all right.
That's correct. I think that we're punishing, you know, here's a convenience issue, and not to, you know, you brought it up. You have a meeting, it conflicts with this. So, to your convenience, and rightfully so, we need to be at that meeting, we need to change this thing.
To represent the citizens.
To represent the citizens, but the citizens also need the ability to get to the meeting. And by having a meeting at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, or even at 5, where most of our people are not working in Wakulla County, we're punishing every one of those, most of those workers.
Okay. So you would not vote for a 5 o'clock? If not, I'll have to bring it back as an agenda item.
Well, we could do it by,
I've already prepared the agenda item for the next meeting
All
to
right.
bring it back at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
well, if you're going to bring it back at 5 o'clock and the board is not willing to consider a 6:30 or a 7 o'clock meeting, I'll go ahead and vote for it. But I'll be bringing something back to try to change that, and hopefully you guys will think about it. How can someone get from working in Tallahassee, getting off work at 5 o'clock, be here at 5 o'clock? It doesn't work.
I just want to add also in that, like in my own situation, I'm going to be here whenever you need me to be here because I'm grateful to have a job that's allowed me to be here, but also to attend this meeting every month. I'm having to use a day of leave a month. Well, attrition factor, I'm whittling my leave time at work down, but I'm going to be here, whenever I need to be here. But there's a lot of other people who work an 8 to 5 job just like I do, and I can imagine that they may not have the leave ability that I have in order to attend. And I would like to go back to 5, not just for myself, but for those who are in like-minded position, because like I said, I'm grateful to have a job with leave, but many people, if they're not at work, they're not getting paid.
Okay, well, Ralph, bring it back agenda item.
Well, if we all can, if we can do right now, about 5 o'clock it is, it's better than 2.
Okay.
So we have everyone can vote on this? Just record the vote?
I mean, so you will go along with it then?
Yeah.
We have a motion.
We have a motion to
We
change.
need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion and a second. I don't know what to do about the citizen thing.
Well, it wasn't on the agenda, so let's let anyone speak that would like to speak, I would think.
Actually, fill out a card. Does anybody want to speak on it?
Oh,
Change the meeting time to 5 o'clock?
Because I did forget to tell you, as we went around the neighborhoods, people were infuriated that it was 2 o'clock. They all wanted to be here. You would have had this commission meeting room packed with citizens voicing their opinions. They were upset. It was school teachers, it was law enforcement officers, and they're saying, I can't leave my classroom in order to come to a commission meeting at 2 o'clock. So thank you so much, commissioners, for changing it back to 5. Thank you. Support it strongly. I'll fill out my card.
I just got one more thing to say about it. I'm definitely going to vote for it going back to 5, and I know Commissioner Kessler had mentioned 7, but I'm going to throw out the time of 6 o'clock out there. And the reason I'm going to, for a future one, I mean, at this time, we're going to vote for 5, but the reason I was so throw out the time at 6 is somebody can get off at 5 and without having to miss any work and still be at a 6 o'clock meeting at the beginning. But anyway, for this one, I will be voting for the 5.
Well, I said earlier along that I'll meet at midnight if that's what's best for our citizens. So I'm not opposed to 6 either, 5, 6, it really doesn't matter. We need to figure out what's best for our citizens.
Come on, guys, we're getting way off track here. Let's go, if we could, at 5. Let's go back to the way it was before we changed it, and we'll set it at 5 o'clock.
All right, 5 o'clock.
Yep.
I think this is a very healthy discussion that you guys are having, and I appreciate you guys doing this. Obviously, you know that I'm for this. I've already spoken on it today. But the idea of going back to 6 o'clock I think is an excellent idea. It's something that I recommend that you guys really discuss. I appreciate Commissioner Kessler bringing that up in the future. Personally, I think 7's a little bit too late, but 6 o'clock will allow folks to get here. You can get here from anywhere in Tallahassee in an hour, and so I highly recommend that you guys seriously consider that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
All right, meeting's back at 5 o'clock. On the signed ordinance that's coming up, I guess guys know it failed the planning commission. I think specifically because of Jack's place. And I'd asked Heather, I want to propose an amendment that basically states if you have a existing non-conforming directional signs can be replaced if they're destroyed. As long as of course, they're not supposed to be on county right away anyway, but and I think that would resolve.
Size is not increased or anything.
No.
Everything stays the same.
I understand Jack's point. He brought his sign in. If somebody steals it, which they do all the time,
Well, that makes
legally
sense.
he can't replace it.
That makes sense. If it's,
And I'm going to propose that amendment. Now, I don't know if that's going to kick it back into starting all over again, but
I'd have to more fully understand what your amendment, you're trying to take any directional sign that was not permitted correctly to begin with, that was illegally put up, and make them
Well, I'm
legal
assuming-
signs?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay.
If it's legally existing.
Well,
Because none of his signs, as if I'm understanding correctly, the direction I've received from planning staff, but I've not looked at it personally, but none of those signs were permitted to begin with.
well, okay, I stand corrected then. Then yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. If he got permission from a property owner to put a sign on Clark Avenue saying this is the way to go to Gulf Species Marine Lab, I don't have a problem if somebody steals it. I'm not saying put any more up, but
But you're saying legally. You're saying one that's
it will
permitted.
make them legal to be replaced if they're destroyed.
If they're previously permitted.
No, I don't think he permitted any of them.
He did not permit it.
And they can't be on the county right of way. And if there's any signs on county right of way, obviously those need to be removed, but
I'd say if he had permission from the property owner and he put it there with the property owner's permission, I'd be okay with it. I don't know, that's something that we even need to be regulating, you know?
Going down to the future.
There's
Stop where it is.
yes.
It
stop
doesn't
where
go
it is.
forward.
All I'm saying is existing signs, if they get destroyed,
Yeah, that
we
makes
replace
sense.
them. I think there's like, we're talking about 5 or 6 signs here that would just make an issue just go away. Anyway, I'm gonna bring it up.
I'd like to comment on that. So what we're saying is that non-conforming or non-permitted signs,
Directional signs.
whatever, okay,
Well,
whatever.
that's a lot, so that's a subcategory of signs.
Yeah, but it's a sign. And so we're going to say now, we're going to make another subcategory for a specific entity that it's okay to do that. I mean, a non-conforming sign, we're giving that person the right to keep that sign until it's destroyed or whatever happens to it, burns down or whatever. They can't repair it anymore. I mean, that gives them a certain lifetime with it. But to go ahead and say, we're going to make a special entity, I think that defeats the purpose of any kind of regulation.
I didn't say it would pass. I just thought I would.
Well,
I would bring it up. You know, we're talking about 2 foot by 2 foot signs, we're not talking about big things. But anyway, just think about it, at least maybe go look at them and I'm not making it specific to Jack, that's why I said,
Yeah, I'm not trying to make this specific just to that one entity either. I mean, this would be something that would be for anybody who had a sign that was already there, and if they lost a sign, that they would be able to replace that sign. But I know that DOT has a lot of stringent policies already in place governing, even if you put the sign on someone else's property, they've got a lot of things involved with that as well.
next thing, briefly, when I assume, when Heather's talking about, how did you word the appearance, you can read it, the appearance of a mobile home, the architectural standard.
Architectural and
You could, for
aesthetic.
example, say that the mobile home has to have a 412 pitch shingle roof, it has to have vinyl siding, for example. That would exclude all old mobile homes. That's just another tack to think about. And if you got a pitch roof, that's gonna make it a newer mobile home also.
We got, some of them have hardy board siding now, some of them.
You got hardy board
you know.
siding, that's right. So there are workarounds, and if we can't do the date thing, my preference would be that we put that architectural standard, which we can put on there, say you gotta have a certain minimum pitch shingle roof, you can't have metal siding on your mobile home, you have to have single hung windows of some sort, you know. We can regulate things like that.
Yeah, those are all things you can do, and we'll continue to look at this. I didn't note the definition, the way I think a manufactured home is merely a subset of a mobile home. It even says manufactured home means a mobile home.
I think we all know that the purpose of this, and it was effective actually when they did it back in '93, I guess, was to make it almost as much to put a mobile home in as there is to put a site-built house in. That's why you said you gotta have a porch, we can still regulate that, I guess, right? Leave all that stuff on there. And it's obviously been very effective because most homes in Magnolia Gardens are site-built homes. So, anyway, that's just something else to think about. Richard?
I'm good, y'all have answered most of my questions, except one thing I do want to add. Modular home holds its value a lot better than as I understand it, right? So if someone did put a modular home in there, that's something that would hold its value and maybe even increase in value as time, so that wouldn't be a draw on other owners, as they have said. Because if it's a modular.
Just a couple of things. I just want to, just to be clear, what do we think that we voted on as far as the time of the board meetings? 5 o'clock. Okay. but there's consideration for
It
six.
sounds like there's interest in discussing it.
Okay.
Yes. I just didn't want to get into it then, want to get something done.
We've at least got it moved back forward to 5 o'clock, but one day if the vote ever comes up to put it at 6, I'll be in favor.
Okay,
Well, that gives you a good idea of whether...
we got it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, one other thing, that was brought up on the building code, as relates to the mobile home ages that can be brought into the county. Do we have to do anything regarding that? Is that in conflict with something? Is that something we need to change? Is that something we should be changing or thinking about changing?
Well, if you change the building code, you have to get state approval to do that, because it is a statewide mandated
It's the
code.
Florida building code, right?
Yeah.
We can't change that.
Well, how do we have something in there that says 1973? Is that the state of Florida that's saying that?
I think that's when they started
It's
adopting
76,
standards.
I think, but yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's when they started being regulated.
So we couldn't put our own standard in? If we went to the state and asked them, could we put 1993, if that's when things got a lot better for all new homes being brought in here, or used homes being brought in?
I guess you could ask the state and adopt a local
And
ordinance.
that's
I'm
why
not
we
sure
continued
how,
it for her to find that answer out.
Oh, are we going to explore that?
I was not exploring that aspect of it, no.
We're exploring the date issue.
No, I was not exploring changing the Florida building code as it applies to the date of mobile homes.
I don't think we want to change the Florida building code, but can we be more restrictive, I think is what Howard's saying, than the Florida building code? If they're allowed to put a date on it, that apparently is in conflict with the state statutes, why couldn't we put a date on it?
Any differences that you can adopt local exceptions to the Florida building code. It has to be approved by the state before you can do that.
Exceptions to it,
Yes,
which would mean less restrictive.
or any changes.
Well, I think though the architectural controls may accomplish even better what we're looking for. I don't know, but
Yeah, no, I think they could, but what I was getting from, at least part of my conversation with staff, was that it was going to be a very difficult thing to do. Now, I don't know that whole area, but I was just looking at if we have another area that we could possibly look at as well. I mean, if that's an option, it doesn't hurt to ask.
something else too is the size restrictions. Can you check into that too? Can we legally restrict to only double wides in Magnolia Gardens like it's written right now? That's another major issue.
Seems like that would fall under an architectural standard, I don't see
I guess
why
so,
not.
minimum square footage.
But it says architectural standards relating to siding and roofing,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
When you say you gotta have a minimum of 1,500 square feet, you gotta have 412 pitch roof, you gotta have single hung vinyl windows and siding, you might as well go ahead and build a site-built home. Not all the time, but you know what I'm saying.
I mean, Terry is entirely correct. This was all driven by the mobile home lobby.
And don't forget that we also, we set on the septic standard, if you're on a single lot, you gotta have a $10,000 septic tank. If you're on 2 lots, you can do a regular septic tank. So we kind of encourage that less density too.
I think it's important to note too that, we're probably talking about a small group of manufactured homes that would come in. I don't know of anyone that's financing used mobile home, manufactured homes, whatever we want to call them. So we're probably talking about only cash deals, which that could happen, and we don't want that to happen either. But I don't think there's going to be a huge flood of manufactured homes if we do this.
We keep kind of the same restrictions, obviously not, because over the years, and all this came up because we were trying to help one person. So it's a good teachable moment, I think. We opened up Pandora's box. Any more discussion? You have a motion to adjourn? I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's meet back in 10 minutes and we'll start our TDC workshop, okay? Is that good? 5 till? Yeah. Thank you.